Okay, so I'm starting that. So then the Truffle side, what is the main usage of Truffle? Okay, first of all, we'll discuss about the Truffle usage in blockchain development. So using the Truffle, you can develop your smart contract. You can develop your smart contract. First step is develop your smart contract. And test your smart contract. The second step, I think, is you can say deploy the smart contract. Deploy the smart contract. And the third step is test the smart contract. So this is all about smart contracts. To manage your development environment of your smart contract development, okay, for your smart contract development, we use Truffle as a framework. Okay, Truffle is a framework which will be helpful to make your smart contract development process much faster. You can use Remix as well, but Remix has a limitations. You cannot use Remix web interface or your IDE. You cannot use it for a bigger project like a production project. However, for Truffle, you can create such enterprise projects or very bigger applications. You can use Truffle as a framework to develop your smart contracts in a much faster way, okay, and easy to manage as well. So your development, deployment, and testing process. So now we are going to use a Truffle for development. Okay, so where we are going to deploy and how we are going to test it. Okay, so that part we are going to discuss now. So we are going to use the Ganache as again as a simulation blockchain platform in this case. Truffle along with the combination of Ganache. So Ganache also is a part of this development and deployment process. So now in the Truffle environment, yes, we are going to create one .sol file. Okay, a smart contract is developed. The smart contract is properly developed in the development environment. But how we are going to deploy this smart contract into the Ganache? Okay, how we are going to deploy it into the Ganache? To deploy into the Ganache or even to compile your contracts in Truffle framework, we are going to use all commands. We have some bunch of commands. We are going to use those bunch of commands to compile your contract, to deploy your contract, from Truffle environment to Ganache, and to test your contract also. You should be having some framework. So in yesterday's session for the Remix framework, we have simplified this process just by compiling your contract using from the web interface, right? So from the web interface, we are able to compile it, and we are able to easily test it. We can deployment is also become very simplified that way. And even the testing process also, we have the contract address. From the contract address, we are able to get all the functions, and we're able to test it very simplified way, right? But in Truffle, we need to use some commands. Okay, to compile your contract, there is a command. Compile command is there. Truffle compile. And to deploy the contract into the Ganache, you should be having another command called migrate. Migrate is nothing but moving your contract code from one location to your blockchain. And to test, we need to use JavaScript. We need to develop a JavaScript. So this JavaScript, using this JavaScript only, you're going to, what are the contract you're migrated, right? Your smart contract will be migrated here, right? So you're going to test it. So it means you're going to give an input to your contract, and it is going to give some output out of it. So yesterday we have used the calculator contract as a smart contract, right? So today the same calculator contract only we will try to deploy. We'll try to deploy from Truffle framework as well. Okay, so let's explore that part. So before we go into this understanding about how we are going to uh, compile and deploy and test it, so let me give some more understanding on the Truffle framework. Okay, so how the commands of the Truffle will be useful, what are the different commands you have. So let me go through all those commands. Okay, so in the Truffle, the commands we are going to use is Truffle Compile. I'll tell you what are these commands. I'll explain this. After the command, we use Truffle Migrate and Truffle some test. We need to give the location of the test file. Here we need to give the location of some test file. Okay. So before that, we need to install the Truffle framework. So npm, how to install the Truffle framework? Npm install -g Truffle. Okay. So once you install this, your Truffle will be installed. So how to test it? Well, after this command, first command, we are going to use Truffle -version to test, or -v, what is the version of your Truffle. So this is the first command. We are going to use it, and after this, we are going to use the second command to test your Truffle version. After this, we are going to develop the contract. Okay, so to develop the contract, there is some structure we need to define. So to develop the contract, so in Truffle framework, you will be having some directories. Okay, so directories like contract, and you have the migration, you have the test folder, and you have the truffle-config.js file. Okay, so what we have to do is first of all we need to create mkdir, some project. Okay, so calculator is our project, so let's write a project like mkdir. You have created a calculator folder, smart contract for calculator, smart contract for calculator. Okay, you created a folder. Now you change directory to this folder. Okay, inside this folder you need to create all these directory structures. What are the directory structures you need to create? You need to create a directory structure like mkdir contract, mkdir migration, mkdir test, and this is a file. This is a file means you don't need to create mkdir. You need to create some, use a touch command to create this file, or just create a file. Understand? So far what we are trying to do is, first of all we are going to install the Truffle. Once the Truffle is installed, we are going to check the version of the Truffle. Okay, so I think in our latest version should be pointing out to 5 dot some version. It should be some 5.1, 5.10 or 01 version. It should print out, and after that we need to develop the contract. To develop the contract, to develop a smart contract, we need to follow this structure. So I'll write it like this. Follow the below steps to develop the smart contract. Okay, so you need to create mkdir. So in this case, a calculator. In future, you want creating a new project, you need to use that project name. You need to cd change directory into that folder and create directory for that contract, and mkdir for migration, mkdir for test, and create a folder like this. Okay, so far just do these steps. So these steps, I'll tell you why each folder, what it contains. So the importance of each folder is why we create some 3 folders here is whatever the contracts you're going to develop, right? All the contracts to be developed within this folder. It means if you're developing SOL file for your project, that SOL file should be part of this contract folder. Okay, I told migration. So using the Truffle framework, you're going to develop so we are going to use Truffle and Ganache, right? So in the Truffle, I told we are going to put the dots SQL file. The .SQL file should be kept as part of the contracts folder. Okay, and you keep the contracts folder in the contract. I mean the whatever soul files in the contracts folder, and we need to compile your contract. We need to use a command called Truffle Compile. Okay, now the compiled code will be there here in the Truffle environment. To move your bytecode, the bytecode is nothing but your compiled code. To move your bytecode, we need to migrate your contract from this location to the Ganache so that your contract will go and sit here. To do that process, we need to use the Truffle Migrate. Okay, so we are going to use the migrate command to move your contract from this location to Ganache network. Okay, so now the contract is here. So you want to test it. So you want to test your code. So all your test code is nothing but your JavaScript will be kept as part of your test folder. Okay, so you see here the test folder is located here. So all your JavaScript should be kept inside your test so that it will interact to this and you're going to get the response like this. Okay, and one more point is the Truffle config file. So you're compiling the contract, you're migrating it, you're testing it, but this Truffle should be knowing which location it should connect to that. Okay, which location? Yeah, I think yesterday we talked about the IP address of the Ganache network and port number, right? That information we are going to kept under your Truffle config file. Okay, so basically Truffle will be helpful for to connect your contracts, to compile your contracts, connect to the network, migrate your contract, and test your smart contract. Okay, so for each step, whatever the steps we need to execute it, right? We have a commands specific to that.